Hey everyone, to say that Disney and Star Wars has been struggling a bit might be an understatement. But does that mean it's dead? Of all the recent series, Andor was the underdog that nobody wanted and nobody watched until after season one ended, when there was this groundswell of conversation that started bubbling up and getting people's attention. And Disney suddenly realized they'd accidentally made a great series about regular people just trying to survive and how that effort to survive ultimately pulled them into the rebellion. Andor season two started out super slow, but with episodes 4 through 6, we're starting to see a fuller picture. We're getting the big vision for this series and how it might actually pan out for fans. So the big question here is, will this season finally kick into gear and deliver on the promise of Rogue One or not? Episodes 1 through 3 took their time introducing us to the characters again, updating us on where they were in their lives, outlining their key issues to the point of exhaustion. But they kind of gave us a good understanding of how those characters fit into the larger political and social workings in a much more specific way within this very mature and powerful empire that we kind of didn't see in the previous series or in the previous season. So while the first group of episodes might have felt painfully slow, looking back from the end of episode 6 makes it a little easier to see how they used that time to plant the seeds for each character's arc to grow in the next set of episodes. And this could have been done, honestly, a little more efficiently, but at least those seeds are already starting to show some compelling conflicts that are designed to challenge the characters. And I think this is also why that 3 episode pattern made sense. And it ultimately really forces them into decisions that point to some of the big surprises and hopefully to some of the payoff that we are going to get. Despite the slowness of the opening of the season and the lack of any real character growth in those first few episodes, the second trilogy are starting to do some things right. For instance, we're starting to see these worlds, these visual landscapes in new and more detailed way. They feel physical and they feel real. And so many of these locations feel unique from an artistic perspective while still fitting in seamlessly to the same universe. But really, it's the combination of physical details from the set design to the costume design that really makes you understand why the series costs so much money. You can see the value in every scene. This isn't like The Acolyte. The production work is also far beyond what we saw in Ahsoka or even Kenobi. There was a recent interview that I saw with Diego Luna at the Star Wars Experience in Japan. I didn't go there, but I did see the interview in which he's talking about the entire team, not just the actors, but the entire production team from season one and how they all returned to season two because they love the show so much. You can see in every detail, in every scene, in every location, just how much they love their work because it shows on screen in ways that just shook me. Like I was surprised and I started seeing these comparisons with other Star Wars series and even movies. And that kind of excitement, that kind of dedication, it shows in the final product. So, like, beyond the story itself, you see the production value that these people crafted into every episode, making Andor kind of a visual delight to look at. And the story is now starting to build in ways that make sense and feels like it has some kind of direction for the main characters. In episodes 4 through 6, we see a lot of setup happening still, as well as some significant movement for the story and the characters. What works especially well for the storylines is that the characters' choices and their decisions are presented logically. So when characters' actions deviate, it's clearly intentional, and you can tell that it's driving the story, but in ways that actually make sense for the characters. And that really helps to develop the characters as they start feeling the political and social pressures pushing in on them as the empire just tightens its grip on systems. And these 3 episodes, they're full of politics. And don't let anyone tell you that Star Wars is not a political series. From the first movie, it was politics. It was all politics. And so you get in this series Mon Mothma, and she is working it. She is working the political angles in every way possible to manipulate the power systems of the Imperial Senate. While she's clearly powerful and well respected still, we see how hard it's become for her to make deals that protect people and planets because it's just too dangerous to vote against the Empire when you have a ruler who has the kind of grip on the Senate to make them do whatever he wants them to do. And if they don't do it, they get punished or their regions get punished. They're going to do what they're supposed to. They're going to toe the party line. And that's exactly what we see here with the Empire and the Emperor and how it all kind of crushes in, pulling everybody in line. And there are these 2 scenes that are really just packed with potential for Mon Mothma. And the first is in her conversation with the senator from Gorman. We know that the Empire has spent the last year putting things in place to take that world's resources without caring that it will destroy the planet. And we feel that building tension. The second scene is with Senator Organa because we know how important he is to the entire story, given his connection to Obi-Wan and to Leia, and how the 2 of them are clearly in the early stage of playing a very, very long game. And then there's Luthen Rael. He's feeling the pressure of the Empire closing in on him and the rebellion. He's finding fewer successes, and they seem to be taking greater losses. This pressure plays out in a seemingly simple scene in which he must recover a planted microphone before it is discovered, or the whole operation could just come tumbling down on him. His sources, they're slow in providing good intelligence, which is creating other cracks in Luthen's usual calm facade. So he's pushing both Cassian and Bix to do more dangerous missions despite Bix's condition, and that's creating greater friction between him and Cassian. And Bix, she continues to be tormented by nightmares and memories. She can't get that doctor out of her mind, and she's got to do something. She can't sleep, and it's causing serious issues between her and Cassian. And it also leads her to take these drugs that are pushing the dreams out of her head, but only for a little while, which may also generate bigger story conflicts for her later. And Luthen's manipulations are making things worse. However, the final scene of episode 6 is absolute story gold. No spoilers, but you're gonna love it. Cassian goes off on another assignment to evaluate the Gorman rebels' ability to fight back against the Empire. He meets the key players in the resistance, and he's just shocked by just their sloppiness and their lack of preparedness for the kind of spy work that they need to be doing. And he realizes they're just going to get themselves in trouble. And he walks away saying it's just too late for them. They aren't ready to pull this off. And the Empire is just too strong on that planet. What I love most is that Cassian was allowed to make a smart decision and say no using his expertise as the reason why. And that really just heightens the story tension, preserving his character's intelligence rather than sacrificing him to the graveyard of stupid decisions that we see far too often. Then we've got Vel, Sartha, and Cinta, who they haven't seen each other since, what was it, the end of season 1? And they're put into play together by Luthen, who's just kind of desperate at this point to get the Gorman rebels to do this heist to show them his support. But things go sideways, just like Cassian predicted. Meanwhile, all of this plays directly into the Empire's hands, just as Dedra planned. But we also see the cracks forming between Luthen and his most trusted people, because he is pushing too hard and risking too much. Still, we understand Luthen's anxiety because we know what is happening and what is coming, even if the characters in the story don't. It's that gap between their knowledge and our knowledge that creates the sense of expectation within this group of episodes. And then we've got Dedra, who is just creepy as heck, and she's heartless and demanding in new ways that reveal new levels of her character in these episodes. Not only is she leading the Imperial move into Gorman, but she's doing it in a secret way from afar to keep everyone unaware of just how much planning is actually happening and what's about to happen to this planet. What the people on the planet see and feel, it's really just the tip of the iceberg, and they don't even know it's already too late. That's Dedra's handiwork, and that's how good she is at her job. Then we have Syril. Poor Syril. In season 1, I hated this guy. But in season 2, we're seeing his evolution, and so far, he's kind of the most dynamic character in the series. I still don't really like him as a person, but I'm getting to understand him as a character. He's evolving into one of the people with the most to gain or lose within the series. We see how much he wants to belong and how he enjoys his connection with the Gorman rebels. And we also know it's kind of all set up, but it feels like Syril may not know how much he is starting to care for the Gorman people. I think that's going to introduce some really fantastic moments of conflict between him and Dedra when he understands the true role he is playing and how she is using him. She may care for him as much as she's able to care for anyone, but there are cracks in their relationship that reveal just how she sees him. And that lights out scene, it was a clear nod to the future conflict that he is likely to have with Dedra and how he's either going to have to rise or be crushed by her. And then there's Wilmon. He's on an assignment to deliver a complex device to Saw Gerrera, who is leading a campaign against an Imperial station. There was just something wonderful about seeing Forrest Whitaker as Saw Gerrera in these scenes. I just got to say, he brings this intensity to the scenes that he is in that really could have easily overwhelmed another actor. But these two have real chemistry on camera. As a result, we could feel Wilmon's fear shift into resolution and acceptance. We could also see how Saw recognized something in Wilmon that was worth stoking, turning him into a new kind of rebel. These scenes transformed from what could have been just a rote delivery plot into something so much more meaningful. Were there problems in this set of episodes? Absolutely. Absolutely, there were some problems. But they weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. So I think we're clearly on an upward trajectory. There were still some slow scenes. The CGI in certain places was a little too CGI at times. Some of the decisions felt a little too set up. And some plot points were so light that if the 3-episode structure wasn't in place, they probably would have gone unnoticed. However, nobody Nobody made stupid decisions. And the 3-episode structure, again, creates these story arcs for the characters, which actually paid off by the end of episode 6, showing why this structure was actually chosen. And so that is a nod to a good decision that Disney made for this series. If the next set of episodes continues this trajectory, Andor season 2 could really start delivering on the promise of the season, as well as the series, and the promise of Rogue One. So, what did you guys think of this set of episodes? Did they deliver for you? Did they have compelling storylines? Were they finally starting to show you some stuff about these characters that made you care? Or are you waiting for the full season to be finished before watching? I wouldn't blame you if you did. Let me know in the comments below. And please be sure to like this review, subscribe, and share this video. All right, that's it for now, guys. Be sure to maybe check out one of these other videos. Let me know what you think, and I will see you all again soon. In the meantime, happy viewing. Bye for now.